First story. She left me for another man. I'll spare the details, but I needed an outlet to vent cause I'm at loss for words and this shit is taking a massive toll on me. Long distance relationship 3 years in. Our first year was in person but she had to move back to finish school. I thought this shit was solid as a rock. We were due to close the distance later this year. Calling every day and every night in love and communicating about everything. Out of the blue, at least for me, she becomes closed, distant. Less calls, less good nights, less I love yous. I felt something was wrong, but what can I do from 6,000 kilometers away? A month later she's telling me she's seeing someone and we're breaking up even though she still loves me, and typical "I didn't mean for it to happen" bullshit. Pretty sure it was a guy from her friend group or a friend of one her friend's boyfriend or whatever. The night she told me this was like a knife through my fucking heart, and I'm not sure how to heal this deep ass cut. Yeah, to me that ain't love. Love is sacrifice. Love is being committed even though that initial spark may have lessened. Being in a long distance relationship, I also met a lot of girls who I could have potentially developed something with. But I would have moved mountains before even coming close to positioning myself in a position to fall for someone. Now I'm stuck comparing myself to this other guy. How is he better than me? How could I let this happen? How could she do something like this? I went from an extremely confident guy to this fucking shadow of myself who is insecure as fuck. This clearly shows in my interactions with people post-breakup. I feel like I'm 15, and all my work for the past years in terms of self-improvement has vanished. This is actually the second time a woman has left me for another man. The first time I was young and I did some shady stuff, so I accepted it. This time, I was completely myself. Zero hiccups, zero bullshit, zero faking. Complete vulnerability and trust since the start of the 3-year relationship. Yet I still fail. I think women may see me as a stable and safe option while they're looking for more excitement. How the fuck do I bounce back from this? Thanks for reading. I don't know WTF I'm writing this for. I'm too embarrassed to tell anyone in real life the real reason we broke up, so I needed to put it somewhere. Really dark place right now. Might get therapy. EDA, late nights are so fucking rough. Imagining her slowly but surely falling for another dude, kissing, having sex, going on dates. Enough to make her abandon me after everything we fought for. My life was going great otherwise, but I feel like I fell from heaven to fucking hell. Second story. Children's position in the face of betrayal. My wife and I have been arguing a lot. It all started when I found out that she looked for her ex-AP who she cheated on me with 15 years ago on Facebook. I discovered it by chance on a phone number that she passed on to our daughter who might be from AP. I was never interested in finding out, but her similarities with my sisters have given me resilience to this day regarding that. But unfortunately the arguments escalated, and I'm sure both of my children know that at some point their mother cheated on their father. Me and I see that they are absolutely neutral. They know that I suffer a lot because of this. I don't want them to take sides or turn against their mother. But will this be a sign that my pain for him doesn't matter? Does it matter? Or is it another issue like impotence? Not knowing what to think or do? I'll never charge them for that, but there are times when it comes to mind. After I discovered the research, I spent a few months at a friend's house, but my children started having rebellious problems with her, and I ended up going back to help with that and ended up staying while I was away. She went into despair begging for forgiveness, even threatened to go play for Vasco suicide, and is doing everything to prove to me that she only wants me. Which she researched out of curiosity to know what the ex-AP looks like. Who is an idiot to do? I felt betrayed again and thinking, did they find each other? She denies that it was just the research and that it wasn't even successful. According to her, she couldn't find him. I feel strange now and think about just ending the war at home and thinking about what I will do. I have a strong feeling that says she's not worth it. I feel like I have to organize myself to get out of this. And it's not just because of the situation. There are many other things that happened in these 15 years that made me realize that she never regretted what she had done. But now she's trying to do everything she hasn't done all this time. Third story. Found evidence on her phone, can't find the strength to end it. This year has been the hardest of my 24M life. Several traumatic events I won't share the details of since they don't serve the purpose of this post. Throughout this time, however, I felt lucky to have my girlfriend 24F there to give me support through a lot of it. Recently I've felt suspicious, behavior changes mainly. I started to feel paranoid because she was always so reassuring when I needed it. I often blamed myself for how I was feeling. However, suspicion got the best of me, and I went through her phone to find more than enough to know my feelings were validated. Texts, photos, DMs, etc. Even though I know she's disloyal and lying to me, I can't muster up the strength to end it. I feel as though it would be harder to be alone than to simply ignore what I found and stay heartbroken but be with her. Maybe I'm afraid once it comes out that it's true and I'll have to face her as her facade drops, or that she would continue the charade and try to manipulate me more. Or maybe she'd do something drastic to hurt me. At this point I don't know what she's capable of and I'm scared. I'm sorry for rambling, I'm just feeling a lot of things I can't quite make sense of right now. I guess what I'm asking is, what do I do? How do I confront her? What do I do with this pain? How can someone look you in the eyes and tell you they love you, want to get married and grow old together, tell you they'd never cheat ever, and not mean a single word of it? Fourth story. I never thought this would happen. I have been struggling to make a post about this for a while now. Sorry if I am not good at the acronyms. At the beginning of June I learned my 31M wife, 31F, of 10 years, 3 years married, had been having an affair with her boss. Prior to today I always thought we had a good marriage and relationship. We had our problems, but I wouldn't say they were different from other relationships. I definitely didn't think this would be the path we would end up on. Starting from the beginning, my wife started a new job in March as the chief of staff for an executive at a tech company. The job was a big deal and would require a lot of international travel. I was proud of her for the accomplishment and spent a lot of time encouraging and hyping her up at the start of the role, when she was doubting her ability to work it successfully. The travel of the new job took a toll on us. There would be back-to-back weeks of long travel and limited time together. We would talk when she was able, but different time zones can sometimes make that a challenge too. I work full-time as well and also had my own rigorous work schedule to abide by. In May I started to notice my wife pulling away, being glued to her phone, and really making a lot more critical comments of me. Namely, she gets more fulfillment out of her job than she does from our marriage, or I would rather be gone on a work trip than here. I trusted my wife fully, and while this shift in behavior caused me some concern, but I still didn't think she was cheating on me. I thought travel stress was the cause of a lot of the fighting. D-Day was Saturday, June 2nd. She had just returned from a week-long work trip in Toronto. I had been making a point to try and welcome her back home with the house cleaned, or flowers or some type of gesture to let her know she was missed. She got home late Friday and seemed distant. She got very angry with me because I wasn't quick enough in asking how her trip was. Everything seemed off and ended with her telling me she needed to work a good portion of the day Saturday morning, and then she would be going out with her friend in the afternoon. That hurt and was weird. I hadn't seen her for a week in the limited time we had to be around each other. She made plans to be away from me. Saturday came and we were fighting. She kept telling me how we should just call the relationship and how done she was. She left for her plans and I wrote her an email as a last effort to reach her. Later that evening I get a call from my wife to come meet her and her friend out at a bar. I had no desire to be out and around people at all, but went anyway to show I was making effort to try and spend time with her. Long story short, she was drunk and ends up blowing up at me in this bar because I moved her bar stool closer to mine. The night ended basically the way the day started, and I noticed she was again sending messages to someone. At this point it's midnight, so I'm wondering who she is talking to at this point. We get home and she passed out drunk and I checked her phone. I noticed she had the Snapchat app, which neither of us use, and I opened it. She had a burner account with one friend who happened to be her boss. I opened their most recent message and was gutted. There was no more denying it. She was at minimum having an emotional affair. I didn't sleep that night. My adrenaline kept me awake. I was so overwhelmed with emotions I was feeling physical pain. Sunday morning came and I confronted her, and she denied it at first. Then when I showed her Snapchat, she said it was just emotional, and the trickle-truthing started. She was deep in her affair, and her affair fog, as she refused to go no contact and refused do anything I asked if we were to reconcile. She lied and lied about the nature of the affair, and kept sneaking around to continue it for weeks. It wasn't until I saw their messages from WhatsApp, where they referenced being physical in Toronto, did I have proof of the extent. She tried to lie, but once she saw the messages, she confessed, but she didn't stop. She continued to not only sneak around but also be mentally abusive. If I told my family about this, it would be over. If I talked to anyone about this, it would be over. We can't even have conversations with our counselor about the things she did because it is too embarrassing for her. I have been stupidly playing the pick-me dance for almost 2 months. I have done a lot of reflection on what I did wrong in the relationship and how it got us here. I got us into counseling, both marital and me individual. I have tried so many different things to try and fix this, and she isn't. She has seen my mental health deteriorate and she won't stop. My physical health is deteriorating. I have lost 15 pounds since this started due to my appetite being gone, and she won't stop. I have begged and pleaded with her to come back to our relationship, and it doesn't matter to her. I am at a loss here. I don't want my marriage to end like this. But it looks like she made that decision for the both of us when she chose to cheat and refused to stop. I realize I didn't cause this. I can't control what she does, and I can't fix this. She did this, and if this is salvageable, she needs to do the work. But at this point, would it even be worth it or healthy to stay? This affair has caused so much trauma in me I sometimes don't even recognize myself. I am looking for any support and advice that can be offered to help me through this. Thank you for listening to this long and wordy recounting of this horrific time in my life. Fifth story. Found out ex was cheating with her boss 2 times her age. I started dating this girl, Jen, last year. At the time, I was living with parents due to being given a 30-day notice to vacate after my apartment was bought by someone. I was going through some big career changes, so I admit, my mind was in the wrong place, and I wasn't thinking as clearly and logically as I usually do, so keep that in mind while reading how stupid I was. When I was ready to look for a new place to move into, she wanted this place that was 300-400 above what I was hoping. I was an idiot and rushed things PC. I was dying to get out of my parents' place. We moved in together, and she didn't pay any bills, even though she agreed to pay $400. She bought $50 of groceries once every 2 weeks, so I can't say she contributed nothing. We were sharing locations with each other since the beginning of our relationship. She shared hers with me without me requesting it randomly one night while she was out drinking with friends. I shared her mine in return BC. I figured she would want me to. Funny thing is, the same night she shared her location with me, she was taking an unusually long time to reply to my texts. I checked where she was and they were at a strip club. Jen said she was a DD. Then she said she was too drunk to drive, so one of the guys with them was driving her car for the group because they came with her car. I was concerned about her being drunk with a bunch of drunk guys at a strip club. Jen said she wasn't that drunk. When they leave the strip club, her location was headed to an area of a city where she had mentioned her ex lived. Jen claimed they weren't staying at her ex's place. I asked if she planned to sleep over at this place, and how I was uncomfortable with her sleeping somewhere drunk with a group of drunk guys. She never replied until around noon the next day. She asked to call. Over the phone she basically said she didn't have fun last night and complained how her co-workers were shitty people. When I asked about the place she slept at, she said she passed out on the floor and wasn't with anyone. Jen claimed it wasn't her ex's apartment, but the other girl in the group, Ashley. I know the vehicle Ashley drives, and after breaking up, I drove by this apartment a couple evenings since it's OMW to my parents. I never saw Ashley's car there. I realize now how stupid I was, and how I should have ghosted her that morning and blocked her. I trust too easily and I'm fixing it going forward. As the relationship progressed, Jen was constantly starting fights about tiny stuff, like having women following me on social media, who I wasn't even following back. Jen would stare daggers at me if I looked in the direction of any woman in public. I remember gazing into space once and she got mad because I was staring at someone. This someone was a very obese, homely person. Any mention or story of my past encounters with women would cause a day-long fight. She made me throw away anything from my previous GF. Aside from all of this, and much more I don't feel like typing, she would always tell me how I was the love of her life and how I couldn't leave her. She wanted to get married and have kids. Like yesterday. We were only together 6 months, and she was pressuring me into marrying her. I started to use extra caution with sex because I didn't want to have kids at this point in my life. And she was saying things that were making me think she would stop taking her BC. Around 4 months into things, her location stopped showing up. I brought it up, and she gave some BS excuse and it turned it on. A week later, it's gone again. I waited a week to bring it up, and this time she didn't even bother turning it back on. Over time, as I began to see who she really was, I lost desire to have sex with her as much. This caused more fights because she wanted to have sex every day. One day, I noticed what looked like a hickey on her. It was super faint and may have been covered in makeup. When I asked about it, her response was telling me I was right. She barely acknowledged my concern about the mark and we never spoke of it again. That was the day I snapped out of it. I realized I needed to end things. The next day she had a friend pass who I never heard her talk about once, let alone met. She wanted to go to the funeral 14 hours away and asked me to go with her. I said I didn't want to go and this caused another fight. Apparently, throughout our entire relationship, her boss was trying to get in her pants at her job. He was trash-talking me and any time we had fights over little things, she would vent at work to him. He is over 2 times her age with kids older than her. He told her once how I would never have to find out. Anyway, her boss told her that he would go with her to this funeral. Apparently this was the first time they slept together, so she claimed it was my fault because I didn't go to the funeral with her. But she is a pathological liar, so I obviously don't take that seriously. What's worst, when she came back, she immediately tried to have sex with me. She was very persistent, to the point of not taking no for an answer. So not only did she cheat on me for half of our relationship, but she exposed me to risk of STDs from her creepy boss. The next day she was gone with a bunch of stuff of hers as well. She claimed she needed a break and was staying at a co-worker's house. I very much like this specific co-worker, so I wasn't uncomfortable with that part. Over the course of a week, she would visit me and texted me daily, how she wanted to be back with me and happy again. She said she just needed to know I would support her, referring to me not going to the funeral 14 hours away for a guy I've never even heard of. While she was gone, I talked to an old buddy of mine who she used to get so pissed off when I would talk to him, saying things like you like him more than me and I'm your GF. Well, I spilled the whole situation to my friend and he said I was being dumb and she was obviously cheating on me. The next day, I drove by the house of this boss of hers and saw her car parked inside the garage. IDK how I timed it so perfectly to see her car there before she shut the garage door. BC when I passed by to leave the area, it was shut. I had already taken a picture luckily. Sent it to Jen and she accused me of following her. I told her to get all her shit and never contact me again. She had me put all of her things outside and came by with her boss she was sleeping with to help her get all of it. Never saw her in person since, but we had one phone call. I'll admit, I was harsh and called her a whore. When I told her about all the things I was suspicious about during our relationship, she told me with what sounded like a smile on her face, "Yeah, I lied to you a lot." She said her new BF, her boss, was going to take her on multiple trips to Europe, and he was letting her rent out a room of his. She initially told me I could keep certain things she bought for the apartment. I gave her the $600 worth of gifts I got her. Over the course of 2 weeks after the end, she kept texting that she wanted this or that. I got sick of being in contact with her, so I said, "Tell me everything you want, then I'm blocking you." She snapped and said she wanted everything that I didn't pay for. I asked for the gifts I gave her and she refused to give those up. I put all of the stuff out. BC it wasn't worth it to me. I blocked her and that was it. This is months later and I just wanted to share. I learned a lot about what to not do with women, things to look for and what to walk away from.